Okay, hi everybody. All right, so today, what we're going to be doing is something slightly different to what we normally do, and that is focusing only on the one thing. Okay, I'll explain why. Firstly, take a look at the screen. We are looking at three stages today. The title says finding the missing angles in triangles and quadrilaterals, and I've broken it up into three stages. And I'd argue that as each stage progresses, it gets a little bit more difficult. But the idea is that by the time we get to stage three, the third stage, um, we'll sort of be ready for it because we'd have done enough work beforehand to sort of prepare for that stage. So let me talk about each stage really quickly. So stage one, what we're going to do is find a missing angle in triangles and quadrilaterals when only one angle is missing. Stage two, we're going to find missing angles in triangles and quadrilaterals when more than one angle is missing. And stage three, we're going to carefully read and correctly answer word problems involving missing angles. Okay, so like I said, it's going to start off, I wouldn't say easy, but it's definitely going to start off easier than it's going to finish. But like I said, you'll be well prepared by the time we get to stage three. So let's look at stage one. Stage one. Okay, right. So take a look at the screen. We are going to find the missing angle in triangles and quadrilaterals when only one angle is missing. Now, before we do anything, I need someone, or some people, maybe two of you, to tell me, firstly, what is a triangle? And I know that sounds like quite an easy question. And what is a quadrilateral? And whilst the questions might sound easy, it's important to have the right language, yeah? So I'm just going to go from the top, so whoever's first. So let's go to Hayden. Hayden, firstly, can you define, in mathematical terms, what is a triangle? Hayden, I don't know if you're talking. I can see that you're unmuted, but I can't see your sort of sound levels going up, so I'm not sure if there's a problem with your microphone. Message me if you can get that sorted. Let's go to Scarlett. Scarlett, what is a triangle?
A triangle is a shape with three sides.
Perfect. As concise as that. We don't need any more information. It's as simple as that, guys. A triangle is a shape with three sides. And I know that you're probably sitting there and you're thinking, well, I know this. You're wasting my time. Well, guys, it's only for a second or two. And it's important that we make sure that we use the right language, okay? So let's go to Uma. Uma, what is a quadrilateral?
A quadrilateral is a shape that has four sides and
That's it. Done.
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, very good. A shape that has four sides. That's all there is to it. Okay, right. So take a look at the bold writing. I'm going to point to it. Give me a second. So this writing here and this writing here. This writing is really, really, really important. Very, very, very important. Okay. Let's read the first one. It says all the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees, right? So let's look at triangle one. This angle and this angle and this angle. Although we don't know the size of each angle, one thing we do know is that if we add all of the angles together, we are going to get 180 degrees. It doesn't matter what type of triangle it is, how big it is, how small it is, how wide it is, how narrow it is, does not matter. It's going to be 180 degrees. And the same thing can be said about this triangle here, yeah? If we add all of its angles, it's going to be 180 degrees. Okay, so that is that's not something that we need to debate, or that's not something that we need to sort of argue with or think about too much. It's consistent. Every triangle is always going to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, all right, moving on to quadrilaterals, four-sided shapes. So by the way, guys, try and get familiar with this term. I know it's a bit of a mouthful at first, quadrilateral, but all it means, like Umut said, is it's a four-sided shape. It's literally all it means, okay? But we do have to become comfortable and familiar with this sort of language, okay? Now, quadrilaterals, if we add all of its angles, we're not going to get 180 degrees, we're going to get 360 degrees, okay? Once again, it doesn't matter whether it's a rectangle or a trapezium like these two at the bottom, because they've both got four sides, they are both going to be 380 degrees if we add all of its angles up, okay? Now, try not to forget that. Make sure you remember that, because that often, with missing angle questions, that's half the battle. Half the battle is needing to know how many degrees is in the entire shape, okay? Once we know that, half of the work is done, as we're going to demonstrate as we go through these questions, okay? So, take a look at the two questions on the screen, okay? I'm going to go through these ones, and I know that some of you are going to be very eager and very tempted to answer these, and you can, of course, if you'd like to answer them, you can. But for now, let me do these by myself, because you've got some questions in a minute, right? Take a look at the top triangle. Okay, we've got three angles, obviously, because it's a triangle, three angles. We've got an angle of 80 degrees, an angle of 35 degrees, and here we've got a question mark. In other words, we are not given its angle. We've got to work out its angle. Now, before we go any further, I reckon, although it seems pretty trivial, this thing at the top, where it says triangles not drawn to scale, it's worth talking about what that means, okay? It's not going to impact you too much in exams, but I always think it's worth knowing what things mean if they might pop up in the exam. So does anyone think they want to explain what that means? What does it mean if it says triangles not drawn to scale? What do I mean by that? Who's next in the list? I'm going to ask Zoe. Zoe, what do I mean? Oh, Zoe's put her hand down, no problem. Let's ask Gusima. Gusima, what do I mean by triangles not drawn to scale?
It means that it's not accurate.
Cool, yeah, exactly. Perfect. Well done, Gusma. Well explained. It means that if we were to actually measure these angles, it might not be 80 degrees and 35 degrees, okay? So we're not going to measure them with like any tools, any protractors or anything. Instead, we're just going to assume that it's true, okay? Which sounds kind of anti-mathematic, but it's just the way it is, okay? So if you ever see triangles not drawn to scale, you don't really have to do much. You just have to appreciate that you don't measure these with an actual protractor. You just take it for granted, yeah? That is true. Okay, right, so we need to figure out what the missing angle is. Now, we are given the size of two of its angles, right? We've got 80 degrees and we've got 35 degrees. We need to figure out the size of that angle. And the best way to do that is step one, we're going to combine the known angles, the angles that we know about, okay? So we know about that one, that's 80 degrees, and we know about that one, that's 35 degrees. We're going to add them together, okay? Now, if you can mentally add those in your head, that's brilliant. If you can't, just really quickly use the column method, yeah? 80 plus 35. Okay, so 0 plus 5 is 5. 8 plus 3 is 11. We would carry the tens over, the 1 over, but there's nothing to add it onto, so we're just going to put it directly underneath, and we have got our answer. So if we combine 80 degrees and 35 degrees, we get 115 degrees. Now, we know that the triangle must add up to 180 degrees, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take 115 degrees away from 180 degrees, okay? So let's do that. 180 subtract 115. Now, can you do that in your head? Do you need to use the column method? If you need to use the column method, make sure you do. Don't throw away a mark because you get it wrong by doing it in your head. Write it down if you have to. So how are we going to do this? 0 take away 5 we can't do, so we're going to borrow. That becomes 7, that becomes 10. 10 take away 5 is 5, 7 take away 1 is 6, 1 take away 1 is 0. So the answer is 65 degrees. I've got 65 degrees remaining, so that must mean that this angle here is 65 degrees. Now, two things I want to say. The first thing is I kind of rushed through the column method over here. When I was doing my addition and my subtraction, I rushed through it. If you're unfamiliar with that, if you find that tricky, we're not doing that in this lesson, okay? That's why I rushed through it. So do make sure that you visit that area of the website if you need help with that, okay? The second thing I want to say is once you've got all three answers, it's always, all three angles, it's always worth just really quickly adding them to make sure that they add up to 180 degrees, okay? And I know that they do, okay? All right, we've got one more to do, okay? Now, I'll go through this really, really quickly. I'm going to use mental addition here because 110 degrees plus 20 degrees is quite straightforward, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to give me 130 degrees. Now, I know that the entire triangle must add up to 180 degrees. So I'm going to take the known angles away from 180. So 180, subtract 130. You can probably do that in your head, but if you can't, you know, we've got our methods that we can use, but the answer is going to be 50 degrees. So the missing angle is going to be 50 degrees, okay? And that's how we find the missing angle of a triangle when we're given two of its angles, right? Let's move on to quadrilaterals. Now, I'm going to go through these two like I did with the triangles, and then it's our turn. We've got some questions to answer, okay? So make sure you're listening very, very, very carefully. Okay, now, remember, we must make sure that we learn this rule, okay? That all the angles inside a four-sided shape, inside a quadrilateral, add up to 360 degrees. It doesn't matter what type of four-sided shape it is. It could be a square, a rectangle, rhombus, parallelogram, trapezium, trapezoid. It could be any four-sided shape. It's going to add up to 360 degrees, okay? So we're going to use the same process that we use with the triangles. Firstly, we're going to add up its known angles. So we've got 130, 170. What I'd like you to do is kind of like do this along with me. See if you can add them mentally, right? If you're someone, and remember, we've all got our strengths and weaknesses. We all know what it is we're good at and what we need to practice. If you feel like you're someone that's not confident with adding mentally, give it a go. You might surprise yourself, okay? And that's how we get better anyway, by practicing it. Okay, so hopefully if you added these three together, 130 degrees, 100 degrees, and 70 degrees, you got 300 degrees. Now remember that all four angles of a quadrilateral must add up to 360 degrees. At the moment, we've accounted for 300, but we need 360. There is 60 degrees missing. And of course, there's only one angle missing, okay? Therefore, this missing angle must be 60 degrees. And this is the final little bit before it's your go, and I'm looking forward to seeing your answers. So, once again, we've got three angles. There's only one we don't know about, which is down here. Let's add them up. So 100 plus 80 plus 60. What does that give us? That gives us 240 degrees. And what we're going to do is get our known angles, so 240 degrees, and subtract it from 360 degrees, because that's how many degrees there are in the entire shape. And what will answer be? 120 degrees. So this missing angle is 120 degrees. So stage one is almost complete. We're going to answer questions based on stage one, but for now, let's quickly summarize what it is we've done. We've understood how we find missing angles in triangles and quadrilaterals when we are only short of one angle. We're given all other information, okay? So give this a go, guys. Let me show you the stage one questions. So at the bottom there, it says the size of the missing angle in shape A is, and the size of the missing angle in shape B is. Let me know in the chat box what you think the answer is. Okay, let's see if we can do it in about 1 to 2 minutes. Let's say a minute and a half. Perfect, Scarlett. That is the correct answer for shape A. Perfect, Gosima. Perfect, Jordan. They're both correct. Perfect, shape A. Perfect. Very good. Let's take a look. Perfect, Hannah M. Perfect, Ava. They're both correct. Very good. Perfect, Oliver for shape B. Shape A is very close. Perfect, Hannah R. All right, I do apologize if I haven't got round to your name. Take another 20 seconds, guys, for those that aren't finished, and then we're going to go through the answers. And honestly, don't feel bad about getting it wrong at first, okay? As long as we keep practicing. Okay, shall we go through it? Let's go through it. So, let's do shape A first. What we're going to do, remember, if we're given two of its angles, all we need to do is add them together. That's our first step anyway, okay? So we're going to do 78 degrees and 25 degrees. That gives us 103 degrees. Now remember, if you need to practice adding mentally or using the column method to add, please do practice that, okay? So we've got 103 degrees. Now we know that every angle, all angles in a triangle must add up to 180 degrees. So we need to take this number, 103, away from 180. So the question becomes 180 degrees, subtract 103 degrees. Remember that little degree symbol? It's a tiny little circle, okay? What answer do we get? We're going to get 77 degrees. So there's our first answer, 77 degrees. Now let's look at shape B. Okay, shape B. Shape B is only trickier because there's more work to do. There's more numbers to add. But apart from that, the process is identical, yeah? So what we're going to do is add all of its known angles. So 100 plus 95 plus 85. Okay, I think it's time for a volunteer. Let's go for Theo. Theo, can you talk us through this quadrilateral?
So we have 195 and 85. And it adds up to 360. So 195 is 195. Then you have 85. You add the 5 onto 195, which is 200. Then you add the 80, which is 280. Then you do 360 minus 280, which gives you 80.
Wow, what an explanation. Very, very, very good explanation. And I love that Theo mentioned the idea of sort of partitioning and chunking the numbers in order to add easier. Very, very good. Perfect. Yeah, if you said 80 degrees, you are correct. Very, very good. Now, if you didn't quite get it correct, please, please, please do not worry. But please, please, please do practice. Angles is one of those things, not only will it appear in your 11 plus exam, but your SATs, and then when you're older, your GCSEs, and when you're older than that, your A levels, and if you go to university to do maths, you're never going to get away from angles, okay? So make sure we have that solid foundation early on, okay? All right, let's get a little bit trickier. So that's stage one. Stage two is all about finding the missing angle when more than one angle is missing. What I mean by that is if you look at the first shape on the screen here, the one on the far left, this triangle, we've got two angles missing. We've got 1, 2 missing. And if you look at the angle in the middle, we've got 1, 2 missing. And if you look at the final one on the far right, we've got 1, 2 missing. So this time we need to rely on another technique because we can't add all of the known angles because we have too many angles that aren't known, okay? So we need to do something else here. Now, luckily for us, there is something that exists within all three of those shapes which is really going to help us. And I wonder if anyone can volunteer to tell me, what can we see that exists in all three of those shapes that is really going to help us answer this question? Who thinks they might know? Let me go down. Remember, make sure your hands are down if you don't want to answer, because I don't want to ask you a question that you feel that you don't want to answer. Let's go to Ava. Ava, what do you think?
A right angle.
Also, and what does that tell us?
90 degrees.
Perfect. Yes, 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 yes. I love how concise you guys are. You tell me exactly what needs to be said, okay? All of the important information. Yeah, as Ava said, can you see that we've got right angles in all of those shapes? So look, right angle is, let me just remind you for those that might have forgotten, a right angle is when two lines meet that are perpendicular to each other, which is a tricky word. So instead, think of it as like an L shape, right? When we've got that perfect L, we call it a right angle. And remember that right angles can be rotated as well. So it might look more like that, or maybe it will look like this. I know they're not exactly, they're not dead straight. I do apologize, but I think you get the idea, yeah? But very helpfully, more often than not, when we have maths exams or maths papers or any sort of maths resource that deal with right angles, we're often shown that we were shown a right angle by this little, you see that little square in the corner? If you see a square like that, rather than like this curvy shape that I'm drawing here, it usually, well, it always indicates a right angle. Okay, so we can be sure that this is a right angle. Now, as Ava said, this must therefore be 90 degrees. And this one up here, we're going to do all three at once here, yeah? This one up here must also be 90 degrees. And in the final shape, this one here must be 90 degrees. And because we know that, suddenly stage 2 question just becomes the stage 1 question again, because we've already got two angles, or in the quadrilaterals, we've got three angles, yeah? So let's quickly do this. For this shape, we've got 90 and 20, which is 110. We know that all three angles must add up to 180. Therefore, the missing angle is 70 degrees. And if you're tempted to do this, do not worry. Your questions are coming in about 1 minute. Then over here, we've got 50 degrees and we've got 90 degrees. If we add them together, we get 140 degrees. We need it to add up to 180 degrees. Therefore, we've got 40 degrees missing. And now we've got a quadrilateral, which means we've got to change a little bit because no longer are adding up to 180 degrees. Instead, our quadrilateral needs to add up to 360 degrees. This is where some students might go a bit wrong. They might get confused with the numbers. That's why it's worth making sure that you remember very, very clearly how many degrees there are in each type of shape, okay? So let's quickly add these together. 120 plus 80, that gives us 200, doesn't it? These two, when we add them together, we get 200. Add the right angle, that gives us 290. We need to get up to 360, therefore our missing angle is 70. And I do understand that I went a bit fast there. I added and subtracted a bit quickly, but do remember we need to focus on angles. If you do need help with addition and subtraction, do make sure that you practice that. There are videos related to that on this website, okay? Anyway, your go. So before we get to stage 3, let's prove our understanding. Can you answer these two questions, guys? Let me know in the chat box. Oh, very quickly, I do apologize. The questions at the bottom says, what is the size of angle X? It's not indicated by angle X, it's a question mark. So I do apologize for that, but we're looking for the size of the question marks, okay? The missing angles. So give that a go and let me know in the next 90 seconds what you think the answers are. Very good, Jordan. Perfect. Sorry guys, I'm getting confused because I'm reading your answers from last time. Okay, got it. Right, perfect, Scarlett, very good. Perfect, Hannah. Perfect, Ava, both of them, very good. Perfect, Emma, very good. Well done, Oliver. I feel guilty. I wish I could read through all of your names. I'm so sorry. I'm just doing what comes up first. I do apologise, guys. You already put that, Ava. You corrected it, but you already put that as the answer, didn't you? Well done, George. All right, 20 seconds for those that aren't finished. And do not worry. If you feel like you can do this, but you're running out of time, if you feel like I'm going a bit too quickly, I do apologise. But do make sure that you do practice this in your own time as well. Okay. You're all doing very, very well. Perfect, Annabelle. Perfect. George, shall we go through it? Let's go through it before we move to the final section. Okay, so take a look at the top one, shape one. We want to find that missing angle. Now, what do we know? Well, Ava told us that we have these right angles, which measure 90 degrees, and we're given another angle here. So we've got 90 plus 15. Now, guys, be really careful, right? Because you see this question here, 90 plus 15. It might seem like an easy question to answer, but it's often the easy ones we get wrong. Because sometimes questions might seem a bit too easy, we kind of rush them, and that's when we make mistakes. So honestly, when you get to these sorts of questions that seem easier than other questions that we've been doing, give it the attention that it deserves. Because if you do go wrong, for example, if you say like the answer is 95 or 115, which are common mistakes, the whole answer is going to be wrong, okay? So what is 90 plus 15? That's going to give us 105. Okay, now we know that a triangle must add up, all of its angles must add up to 180 degrees. So we can look at this in one of two ways. We can either say, well, what do I need to add to 105 to get to 180? Or we can kind of do the inverse and do what is 180 subtract 105. Either way, our answer is going to be the same, and that is 75. So the answer for shape one is 75 degrees. Now let's look at number two, and I'm going to ask Emma, do you fancy explaining this one? I just saw your name a minute ago, but now it's gone. Oh yeah, here it is. Emma, what do you reckon?
So first, we know that we have a right angle, which is 90 degrees, so we can add 90 and 80 together, which is 170, and then 170 add 120, and if you add that together, we'll get 290.
Amazing.
Then we need to do 160 minus 290. No, 360 minus 290,
Perfect.
which will equal 100.
You've got this, Emma. The last little bit, you've got this.
Which is 100.
360 take away 290.
100.
Have a look. We've got 360 and we've got 290. What do we need to
100.
add,
Is
what
it?
do we need to add to 290 to get to 360? Try and do it that way.
Okay.
You've done all the hard bit. You've got this. You've done all the hard bit. It's just this little bit here. So what do we need to add to 290 to get to 360? If it helps you, we can do, what do we need to add to 290 to get to 300? And then get to 360 from there.
So 130.
So close. You did amazing, Emma. You did brilliant. You did all of it fantastically well. It's just the last little bit here. It's a bit tricky, isn't it, to look at a number like that in your head. It's always especially tricky when the number that we're subtracting has larger tens. Like we've got 9 here and we've got 6 here. That always throws us a little bit. So Emma's done 90% of the work. Who can do the last 10%? Let's go to Jacob. Jacob, what do you reckon?
I think the answer's 70.
Why do you think that, Jacob? You're spot on, but why?
Because 360 minus 290, you need to add 70 to 290 to get 360.
Perfect. Well done, guys. I love it. I love how we all work together to get the answer. That's really, really good. So our missing angle for the second shape, for our quadrilateral, is 70 degrees. All right, you've been amazing, guys, but we're not done yet. We've got one final section. Now, this section, there is no teaching. This is now what we call a bit of reasoning, right? And what that means is if you ever hear when you're at school or when you're doing any learning anywhere that you need to be able to do some reasoning, you need to look at stuff in more of a greater depth. What that means is you need to take the learning that you've already done and kind of like apply it to harder questions that make you think a bit more. So therefore, there's no more teaching now. It's all up to you to see how you use the knowledge that you've got, right? So take a look at this question on the screen. You've got 1 minute to tell me in the chat box, is the answer A, B, C, or D? And I'm going to ask you to read it all by yourself so you get used to the idea of reading an exam all by yourself. Okay, so let me know the answer in the next 1 minute. Yeah, if it's helpful, guys, just write A, B, C, or D rather than sort of like the whole answer. Perfect, Jordan, that's correct. Perfect, Annabelle. Perfect, George. Perfect, Chloe. Chloe, just seeing your other answers as well. Very good, Chloe. Yeah, and don't honestly, guys. If a couple of you are messaging saying you don't know, I have recorded this. So if you want to watch it back, or even if you just go back and watch like one stage, maybe you want to watch just stage one again. Angles are very, very important. Yeah. So obviously, like honestly, just feel free to do that in your own time. Perfect, Lily. Very good. All right. 10 more seconds. Perfect, Elka. All right, shall we go through it? I'm so sorry if I didn't say your name and you've answered. Right, when we get a question like this is our penultimate question. Okay, we've got one more after this. So if you did find this tricky, watch this explanation because it might help with the next one. When we get a question like this, right? Let's read it first. It says a triangle has a right angle. Its remaining two angles are equal in size. Which of the following must be true? Now we need to be able to visualize that triangle. If we can't visualize the triangle, we can't get the answer, right? So it's okay to mentally visualize this triangle, but you always have white space in an exam to do a little bit of a drawing. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can draw it. Now remember, we don't have to draw to scale. This is just for our benefit, right? So it says a triangle has a right angle. So we're going to start off by giving it a right angle. And then it says its remaining two angles are equal in size. Now, believe it or not, when drawing this bit, it's not important. It really isn't important to be accurate because I know that this one is 90 degrees, yeah, because the question says a triangle has a right angle. And now, the last part of the question, the second part of the question says the remaining two angles are equal in size. Even if you didn't draw them equally, that doesn't matter. What does matter is that these two numbers are equal. We need to figure out what those two numbers are, right? Now, we know that a triangle must add up to 180 degrees. We've already got 90 degrees here, which means there's only 90 degrees left, okay? Because 90 plus 90 is 180. Now, with the remaining 90 degrees, we must split it in half because it says that the remaining two angles are equal. So we need to do half of 90, which is 45. So the other two angles must be 45 degrees. Now that we've visualized it, we can go ahead and look at the options, right? So it says option A, the triangle must have an angle of 50 degrees. Well, it doesn't, so we can cross that one out. Option B, all three angles in a triangle are identical. We know that's not true pretty quickly because we know that only one angle is a right angle. Then option C says the right angle is not the largest angle, but of course it is the largest angle. It's 90 degrees and the other two are 45. So we know that's not true. And the final option says the triangle contains at least one angle of 45 degrees. And that is the word that throws us, isn't it? Or the phrase that throws us, at least. It doesn't say it has exactly one. It says it has at least one angle, and it does have at least one. It has two. Yeah? So our correct answer is option D. Okay, the final question of the day. You've been fantastic. You've been really, really great. But give this one a go, then we are all done, okay? There you go. 90 seconds. Okay, 20 seconds left. All right, are you ready to go through it? Now, you have done very, very well today. Even if you found this final question pretty tough, and it is a bit tough, you've done very, very well. Okay, so let's go through it. Now, Hannah, are you volunteering to go through it? You don't have to if you don't want to, but let me know if you want to or not. No, okay, let me ask Annabelle.
Yeah. So how it's A because if you draw a right angle, a quadrilateral, and one side is a right angle, you
You've got this, you're doing very well.
is one right. So one angle is 90 and one angle is 45.
How do you know one angle is 45? You are correct, but how do you know?
Because it says it also has an angle that measures half the size of a right angle, and half of 90 is 45.
Perfect.
And the other two angles add up to 225.
Perfect. Perfect. Absolutely. Well done, Annabelle. So yeah, as Annabelle said, right? I mean, take a look at my working out here, guys. I didn't even draw like a proper shape. I just drew like whatever that is. The right angle is not even a right angle, is it? It's a little bit wobbly. But the point I'm making is we don't need to. This is jottings. This is just helping us visualize. So all I did is I just kind of, as Annabelle explained it, I kind of went along with what she said. She said, well, we have a right angle. The question tells us that. And it also tells us that we have an angle half its size, and now half of 90 is 45, right? So my shape is guaranteed to have those two values, 90 and 145. Now, option A says the remaining angles must add up to 225. Well, to see if that's true, what I need to do is first add these two together, 90 and 45, which gives me 135. And then if I add 225 to 135 and I get 360, because that's the size of all angles in a quadrilateral, it must be true. And it is true. If we do 135 plus 225, we do get 360. So option A is correct. Now, with exams, especially exams that are timed, once you've found an option that's correct, you can move on. You don't really need to look through the other options, do you? Because it's a bit, you're wasting time a bit. But if it does make you feel better and make you more confident, really, really quickly go through the other ones as quickly as you can, or perhaps you can revisit this back later on when you're checking through your answers. But we know what the answer is. The answer is 225 degrees. So well done, Annabelle. And well done to everyone that got that correct. All right, well done, guys. So before you go, can you do me one favor? And that is in the chat box, can you give yourself a number out of 10? So we know how this works. 10 means that you're feeling super confident. 5 means you're somewhere in the middle. And 0 means that you didn't really understand it. And it's okay. Whatever number you want to put is absolutely fine, but try to be as honest as possible, okay? So let me know what your number is. Yeah, don't feel bad. I can see a couple of you put I can see a couple of sad faces and followed by a low number. And actually, those numbers both came from year 4s. Most of you are year 5. So do remember that this is challenging work. You're doing very, very well. Okay, very, very well. And honestly, with a bit of practice, this comes much easier. I think you'd probably agree that the final set of questions, stage 3, were the trickiest ones. But once we get to that level, honestly, our understanding of quadrilaterals and triangles is pretty much, well, at least in terms of angles, is pretty much there, yeah? All right, well done, guys. So, thank you for attending. I'm just going to stop recording. 2 seconds.